Hello, Namaskar. Welcome you to the SAAR Analysis. I am Chaman Naik and here's my take. For more than 70 years, the global trading system rewarded countries that could manufacture product faster, cheaper and at scale. But that era is quietly coming to an end because here's the number that should make every policy makers and exporter pay attention. One European regulation could reduce India's steel export to European Union by nearly 24%, roughly around one fourth of the total transactions. No, not because India's steel are becoming inferior, not because European no need steel anymore, but because of the carbon emitting while producing it. Now ask yourself, when a carbon emission beginning to decide who can sell the world's largest market, are we witnessing the birth of completely new global economic order? Let's dig it out. No, the story is not just about steel, it is about power and it's about who gets to write the rules of 21st century trade. Now here's the data which we're concerned about. According to the study of Indian Council of Research on International Economic Relation, India's steel export to European Union could decline by 24% because EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism, or widely known as CBAM, well, this mechanism is now entering implementation, and that implies that carbon intensive imports, including steel, aluminium, cement, fertilizers, hydrogen, and electricity, where early trade data is already signaling the impact because India's iron and steel export to Europe have recorded a noticeable declining in the months of CBAM rules. Well, this is no longer just a theoretical policy, it is a beginning to reshape the global trade follows. Well, here's what evidence speaks about. The evidence is pointing towards much bigger transformation because for decades, tariffs protected the domestic industry, but now carbon accounting is becoming a new tariff barrier. Well, the European argues that this CBAM prevents carbon leakage or relocation to the production to the countries with weaker environmental standards. But strategically, it also changes the rules of international cooperation. Well, the world's largest consumer market is no longer asking one question, they are asking, can you manufacture it cleanly? Well, that represents one of the biggest structural shifts in the global commerce since the creation of the World Trade Organization. Now, the question arises, why is this important? Because for India, the concern extends to far larger than the steel industry. Well, India is positioning itself as one of the world's fastest growing manufacturing hubs through initiatives like Make in India and expanding networks of free trade agreement. But this future competitiveness may no longer depend solely on the labor cost and production capacity. It may increasingly depend on the carbon intensity. Well, Indian manufacturers could now face higher compliance costs, greater investment in cleaner technology, and this process simply to maintain the access to the premium export market. And this challenge isn't limited to India. Manufacturing economies across Asia, Africa, Latin America are watching closely because CBAM could become a blueprint of future trade policy worldwide. Now let's look at the bigger picture. History says that every industry revolution rewrites the rules of the global commerce. Well, the first rewarded coal, second rewarded oil, digital revolution rewarded data, and the next industrial era may reward low carbon manufacturing. Well, the country is capable of producing green steel, green aluminum, low emission industrial growth not only enjoys significant competitive advantage, they can enjoy the whole market. Well, and those who fail to adapt may lose the produce or they can produce less. Now here's my take. CBAM could be viewed as not as a climatic policy, but it should be dismissed as another European regulation. Well, it is the signal that global trade is entering a new phase where environmental performance increasingly determines this economic competitiveness. Well, for India, this creates both as a challenge and opportunity. Well, the opportunity is even bigger for sure because if India accelerates this environment in renewable energy, green hydrogen, and low carbon steel production, it could transform from being affected by these new rules. Because throughout history, the nations that adapt early don't just survive, they capture the market. And that brings us to the question that define the next decade of the global trade. If carbon has become the world's newest trade currency today, what will be the next invisible barrier that separates tomorrow's economic winners from everyone else? Let me know in the comment section. And that's all from today's analysis. I will be back with another episode. Till then, thank you for watching this.